Hello, 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 everyone. It's me, Heartless. No, that's a joke. It's actually me, AudioVizual, Toonkind's local bootleg Sableye. Guess what, Mother Peckers? Heart is here with me today. Can you introduce yourself, Heart?
Hi, I'm Heartless, and I'm here. And guess who I'm playing? You'll never guess. It's Victor Vole.
We're gonna see how long it takes for Heart's voice to crack. I'm Khalkeus of the Rising Sun. And today's FPS is called Light Shopping. And there's gonna be some light shenanigans, hopefully. And so here's some context for anyone who doesn't know anything about either of these two characters. Victor Vole specifically is involved in Heartless's wonderful, wonderful, beautiful bootleg Kingdom Hearts stuff. All is in
Cathedral.
The Eclipse Cathedral and the return to the Eclipse Cathedral and all of the eclipsing the cathedrals. Khal is my main NPC player character of my own personal campaign I'm running with Heart and a couple of our other fellow Draft House members, with not Victor Vole, so ironically. Yeah, feel free to check out either of those series. They're both very, very good. And I don't know why you would be here if you didn't know anything about at least one of those series, because you're gonna get a lot of lost very quickly after a certain point, unfortunately.
Just for clarification, the second series is called The Dragon Squad.
Yes. Potential name change pending, because that's our affectionate nickname for the group. So yes, there's your context. We go forth without any other context because secrets and he-whos. Oh, and the last important piece of information you need to know. We're in Timeless Hollow right now, and Khal lives up the fucking mountain because there's a mountain range right next to Timeless Hollow.
Yep.
And they're next door neighbors. And they were neighbors.
They were neighbors.
And it is as beautiful a day it can be in Timeless Hollow, because it's Timeless Hollow, with its slightly spooky atmosphere and shadow people wandering around on occasion, and the Eclipse Cathedral cocoon off in the distance, because we're not focusing on that cathedral today. We're focusing on a different kind of cathedral today. Because in the town of Timeless Hollow, there is a temple to the light. And I would love if Victor Vole could roll me perception, because Victor Vole, you're currently waiting at the train station.
Yep, waiting at the train station for people who are supposed to show up. They said they had gotten on the train.
Mm-hmm.
Let me retrieve my dice.
Retrieve your dice.
Oh, that's a nat 1.
Oh boy. Well, that's a real rip. We're using real dice, by the way, both of us, so
That's not a +3.
you get a
+2.
4.
I get a 3.
You get a 3. Alright, well, I get to roll, well, I don't really get to roll stealth because they're not attempting to stealth at all. Victor, I guess you are just real intent on looking for that fucking train, buddy.
Yeah, his thinly drawn tail is just flicking back and forth as he looks up and looks down, and looks up and looks down the train tracks, and looks up and looks down the train tracks.
Looks up and looks down, and looks up and looks down. I have a feeling it's been going on for a while. Well, you don't get to see then the very, very tall dragonborn walk into your temple. You know, to that god you serve because you're a cleric of
Yeah,
the light. You
I,
know that
I
god?
mean, admittedly, the train station is up the hill, so the trees kind of hide the temple from the train station. So it'd be kind of hard for Victor to even notice that.
Mm-hmm. Um,
I do
you
think,
poor
though,
purple.
that after a couple of minutes of watching for the train, after probably a half an hour, Victor's gonna go over and look at the train sketch and go, "Oh, that's right. It's not gonna come for another 2 hours."
My god. Victor, honey.
He just reaches up and rubs out his eyes before turning and heading back into Timeless Hollow. Down the hill, past the houses that have all perked up since the end of the Eclipse Cathedral and are very happily just kind of tunishly bouncing because they're almost empty.
Ray.
And he passes the town hall with its bell, as well as the bunker that indicates the town library. No, it's not actually public. Stop asking. He glances back at the lazy river for a moment before heading into the temple. Now, here's where I get to give you guys a description of what that looks like.
Yay!
Because in the Eclipse Cathedral, nobody actually went there. So, it's a mostly empty stained glass building that is set basically next to Town Hall, relatively next to Town Hall. It's tall, but it only realistically has one level because the tallness comes from the height of the ceilings. There's stained glass that has depictions of a large bat-shaped light and of three beings that seem to be serving them. The large bat-shaped light one is right, you know those churches that have those really pretty stained glass windows of, like, Jesus or whatever, right smack dab in the middle that you get to look up and admire as you walk in. That's where that one is.
Mm-hmm.
And the other three are placed, basically around the cathedral, kind of with their depictions of the beings pointed towards it. One of the beings appears to be an angel with 4 wings, all in shades of blue. One appears to be a snake-like being, all in green, and the other appears to be a stag, all in orange, that is cracked. The altar is a table. Right now, the light inside of it is probably not on. So it's a dark kind of milky color. And there's there are probably a bunch of benches in here too. And then you walk up.
Yup. So Victor, you walk in, and sitting right next to the table with, like, their elbow propped against it, and they've got, like, this little leather-bound notebook that they're scribbling in, is a very tall, very coppery, shiny-looking dragonborn that looks very actually, let's roll perception. That's a 2. I'm not even gonna bother with a modifier. They are very entranced in whatever they're scribbling into their notebook. They don't hear you come in at all. They're just vibing.
Oh yes, the bad perception.
No one gets to see anything.
um, Victor seeing this at first, like, stops, freezes. You know, like a
Deer in the headlights.
or a prey who's just noticed a predator-like being in their vicinity, and kind of just very slowly looks around a little more to see if there's anyone else in here, and there doesn't seem to be. I'm not even going to roll for that.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe I should roll for that, see what happens. Nat 20.
Are you kidding?
I'm not. I'm not kidding. I rolled a different
Oh my
dice
god.
that time.
You know what? Understandable. Have a nice day.
So, actually, just for the audience, Victor looks around and he notices a tiny white bat just kind of hanging out in the rafters.
I'm sure that's not anyone's problem.
No,
I'm sure that's fine.
not at all. And Victor looks back towards the Dragonborn and goes, excuse me, what are you doing in here?
The very, very tall and broad Dragonborn looks up at Victor, and they give a pleasant smile. It's probably intended to be pleasant, but again, this is a Dragonborn, and they have nice, big, sharp, shiny teeth. And they go, oh, hello there. This is a Temple to the Light, isn't it?
Yes. Victor just kind of skitters up towards them, and he you're not from here, are you?
Call gives sort of like a huff of laughter, and then go, well, I'm actually from up the mountain, vagabouts.
Okay, sorry, I haven't seen you around, and we've, there's been a bit of a problem here for a little while of strange people. Sorry.
Call is watching him very amusedly. And they like put their pencil in their notebook and shut it, and they reach up a hand and they're like, well, I'm Khalkeus of the Rising Sun. It's a pleasure to meet you.
It's nice to meet you too. I'm Victor Vole. And Victor stretches up his hand, all Roboto style, and takes Cal's and shakes it, and his arm goes wibble, 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 wibble.
Call's arm does not go wibble, 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 wibble. And they give it like a and they let go, and they're like, I was well, can't say I know much about whatever problem you've been having, but I was looking for a bit of inspiration for my own.
Victor, very stunned, is just gonna keep going for a little bit. I didn't know there was anyone else who even knew they existed anymore.
Carl just kind of like leans their head to the side and gives Victor sort of a look and like, is that why I haven't? Okay. That explains a lot about this dimension. Huh. So there's not a lot of people who know about the light in this one.
Yeah, it, I think, part of the reason is because, well, here in Einquell, there's been, these events that kind of erase everything. I don't think, I don't know what's going on with that. You're really not from here. Okay. Oh, okay. Wow. Uh,
I mean, I've been here a few years now. Seems like a lovely place. There's great big holes in the world that occasionally pop up because of the darkness, doohickeys, or whatever.
yeah, the corridors of darkness.
Yes, I've sort of lost count of how many I've been through, but I've been through a fair number of those. It's very intriguing experience. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it.
Well, honestly, the reason why I'm wearing this coat, and he reaches up and wiggles it a little bit, and and his hood kind of slides back slightly. He's got ears in there. The reason why I'm wearing this coat is it protects me from the stuff in those corridors. Because, I had to try somehow to find where the pack Xehanort went.
And I feel like I should have call roll history. I'm gonna be real.
Roll history.
Yep, I'm like, call's just like, huh. Alright, so that's a 12 plus 5, 15.
I think with that, there have been, whispers that, okay, so I know things. So there have been whispers that Call heard specifically in a place called Nicodranus about a scientist or a couple of scientists who have gone missing. One of them is named Xehanort.
I love how Call knows this, and it's not helpful to this conversation. And all it's gonna do is confuse Victor. But they're gonna. And Call like nods and is like, huh. So that scientist, Now, not much of, the scientist in Exandria, Xehanort.
So that's what he was doing in Exandria. Okay.
Have you been there?
Yes. About 5-6 years ago, something like that. Long time ago. No, more like 9. Wow. Time is a concept.
It sure is. So there is a way to control where those darkness rips go.
I think there is. I've never tried. I've just been trying to follow where they're opening. I know Zaya's not opening them. Or maybe he is, but he doesn't seem like he'd be that powerful enough to open them himself. Victor just starts thinking, and there's a gear, a black and white gear appears over his head and starts going click, 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 click.
Colin's gonna gently reach over and like put their finger in the gear. Stop it. And I'm afraid I don't know much about whatever's going on with the Zaya North, but is it relevant to what the light is doing or something?
Well, last time I checked, Xehanort was, helping the darkness, and, well, you do know the fight between the light and the darkness, right?
I feel like that's an excellent question.
Roll a religion.
Oh boy, what's their religion? God bless their fucking high-ass wisdom. Oh, it fell off the table. Let's try that again. That's a 7 plus 5. That's a 12.
So, I feel like the answer is...
Here's what's gonna happen. Paula's gonna nod very sagely at Victor, and they're gonna be like, "Ah, yes, the primordial they're fighting it out again, aren't they? It's quite amusing to watch. Sometimes, some it I mean, whenever you live as long as I have, gods are really just. Some of them are children, and then it's the whole thing with the whole primordial forces, and it's amusing, really.
Okay, yeah,
Victor, are you gonna ask anything about how Khal knows the light, or anything? Are you gonna ask any questions, or are you just gonna accept this?
So, how did you factor it? I don't know if this is impolite, but, how do you... Victor takes a deep breath and lets it out. It takes another deep breath, and it's very cartoonish the way his whole body just swells with it. And he lets it out again.
Khal is just watching politely, a little amused. I want to know how I factor in all of this. Well, you see, sometimes you're a very young dragon, and there's this great big hole in the world, and things are getting rather hinky, and you're like, oh, I'll just see what this is all about. You know, the mortals are doing fun things. And then you fall through the hole in the world, and then you do it a few more times trying to get home, and then you meet a god. Well, you don't meet the god. You happen to stumble upon one of these cute little temples you all have erected for the god, and then you're like, well, you know, there's this whole thing to do with you're fighting someone. Oh, that's rather interesting. Eventually you may help me get home, right? And then like, oh, sure, you know, whatever. And you're like, all right. And, you know, you have a nice long conversation that you don't remember the entirety of because it was very late at night and you were, it was around a quite long time ago. And then you're like, oh, you need some extra power to fight this whole other primordial being you're fighting. Yes, I'm an ancient dragon. I can lend you some of my power. And then you become a dragonborn for a bit, and it's been a rather fun, nice stint in the...
Oh. You know, that, with all that I've read about the light.
It was a rather amusing conversation, if it helps any.
I've never actually heard them speak, but wow. um,
Can I can summon those cute little key swords you tend to pull out and about those. Yeah. Soldiers of the Light thing, right?
Yep. And Victor is going to reach. Actually, Victor is going to flick his wrist. We're gonna see. Yeah, that's a 2. And suddenly in his wrist is a gray key with a very heavy end to it. Like, it's very kind of bulbous. Looks kind of like a hammer, a light hammer.
Mm-hmm. And Carl nods sagely at that, and like, I've got a couple of the littler ones. They're cute, aren't they?
Yeah, I was given this when I officially became a part of the order. That was a long time ago.
Carl pats Victor's shoulder, just like, it was a long time ago, wasn't it, buddy?
Yep, he flicks his hand and the key disappears again, back into his hammer space. Man, I'm only 20, and I'm just everything. And he just kind of gestures.
Oh, don't worry. It'll get better after you hit about 200, I believe.
I don't know, how long that'll take.
Well, considering basic math skills, one would guess about 180 years. And I wish you all of the luck in the world to getting there.
Thank you. Well, sometimes you're a toon and you spend a really long time being 5. And you only really properly become 6 after you run around with a 5-year-old human in a place called Exandria.
It's a lovely place, Alexandria. Your human friend. They are still in one piece, yes? Considering?
That's that's a very complicated question.
Carl kind of like blinks, and they're like, they lose a limb? Is this a prosthetic situation?
It's I need to sit down. Victor goes over to one of the benches and sits.
Carl follows, but it's definitely like, oh dear. It's like, oh dear. Are they Warforged now? Is this
I mean, it would probably be less strange if they were Warforged now, but I certainly don't have the kind of powers to do something like that, and I'm pretty sure that Say North doesn't have the power to do stuff like that. But So, both 5 years old, they're chasing down Xehanort because he's trying to, I don't know, destroy this kid's town for some awful reason. And he's convinced this kid's friend that he's in the right. And I don't know where that kid thought that trusting a stranger was a good idea.
Children.
But we find them, and their little friend Katrina's all like, I saw her, and her soul wasn't there, and it's very obvious that it was Xehanort's fault that her soul wasn't where it should have been. But nobody else saw that.
I feel like the whole children part plays into that. What a rather nasty situation.
Yeah, and we were trying to convince his friend to just stop, not believing us. And we got into a fight. And my friend was struck down, and I couldn't reach him in time. And nothing I did worked. There was not enough light in that place.
I would say I'm very sorry for your loss, but you've said it's very complicated, so I'm going to hold on to that sentiment for now. Did your friend fall to the darkness?
No, he was dead. But the complicated part comes in is that just recently he appeared, seemingly without any worse for wear.
He is aware that, he cooked it, right?
I don't know. Because, when I started very, very gently talking to him about it, he, didn't quite seem to remember. So I kind of just, I'm, a little wary of what's going on there. It's not normal.
I do know that, have you tried a doctor? Or, someone of a profession like that, if simply because, is your friend a Toon?
Nope. Well, I am not entirely sure what they are now, but I was pretty definitely sure he was human.
And that was 9 years ago now?
Yep. 9 years ago.
If I... What exactly has happened in the meantime, especially if you're so worried about this order and the darkness and, people knowing about the light or not?
I've been trying to track down the order in Xehanort. They're very tricky. They kind of just went underground for a while. I'm pretty sure it's because they knew I was coming after them.
All is gonna hold their tongue on that comment they were gonna make. Um,
The first actual inkling that I had gotten was about the cathedral here, with people from this town disappearing.
hmm. And that was only recently.
Yep. Only a couple of weeks ago. Although
Mm.
I have a bad feeling that time here is, and they start wiggling their fingers, a little, wobbly.
Hmm. Yes. But you see, I've lived in Einquell, more specifically around the mountain, for about 5, 6 years now, I believe.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I've been in Einquell about 7, if I'm following the right solar calendar. It's I've been to some rather odd places who keep track of time in rather odd ways. Um, all kind of mesh together after a while, quite honestly. I think that's about the right number. I feel at most it's been about one of your decades.
Victor just
Uh,
nods.
mhm. Um, I mentioned that if only because I only recently have begun in the last few years to come down to this town to do my shopping. I do live on the top of a mountain, and well, Kensho does provide growing things on the mountain is very hard, and all of this and that.
Can
And I
show? I
Kensho.
don't believe I
Uh,
recognize it.
well, the Lord of the Mountain. I believe you call them fae, or spirits of a place, and all this and that. Um, very polite. It's every month or so there's this whole event that rather puts them in a tizzy. Um, but they've been keeping a watch on the mountains where I live on. Um, and hmm, it is rather odd that this town has seemingly been rather quiet until recently. One has to wonder what did happen.
Well, I don't know what drew them to this place, but I do know that the Eclipse Cathedral. And Victor kind of flinches. He goes, right? That's why I've been avoiding saying the name. It's, oh, hold on.
You came unplugged.
It's because I went kroom, and I kind of leaned forward, and I must have jostled it enough.
Oof. I hate to see it.
Well, this place was, built to protect a being known as the Gust, and Victor points at the green snake-like being depicted in one of the windows.
Mm-hmm.
By,
Car.
Brain Wander Path, and then he points at the angel.
Mm-hmm. Should call roll history.
Yes.
Me quietly. Kyle knows a lot of things, but you're making some really specific. That's a 10. That's 5. That's a 15.
Um, with that 15, uh, you remember the light kind of mentioning the fact that the soldiers of the light had taken a lot of blows to the point where certain like key members of it have just disappeared and it's practically extinct across the multiverse.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't really recognize the names The Gust or Rain Wander Path.
Mm-hmm. And Kyle kind of nods along, and they're like, I don't know those two specifically. I'm going to make a very wild guess and say that the third window has to do with someone as well. Should I know anything specific about this people?
I don't know their name, but well, there's tell of betrayal. That's what well, that's what the elders in the order were telling me. Um, there's not a lot of information on it, on what happened.
And what exactly has Gus up at the top of your cathedral and all of that? Can you not simply just go up and tap the glass or something?
Well, there are 13 floors in that cathedral up between the mountains. And, well, Roderick, my, friend, came back with these tunes I had, hired to go help with the situation with the kidnapped, residents of this town. And they told me that, walking up the staircases, could possibly take your memories. And that's, hmm.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm. I understand how. And that's probably not polite to say. I can understand how some people would be rather attached to their memories.
I mean, it could be rather dangerous for a tune to lose all of their memories.
Yes, that whole sense of self and all of that affecting your design. Hmm. And there's no way to circumvent it. That's rather inconvenient.
I don't know. I'm not strong enough to try. I don't think my abilities would help. Um,
Well, I suppose if worst comes to worst, you could always find some well-meaning and very personally, emotionally motivated volunteers.
yeah. Uh, I've been. I called the tones that I hired last time because well hmm, a couple of days ago, some members of the Order walked right through town and right up into the Eclipse Cathedral.
That does sound, that does not sound rather good for you then, huh?
Nope. It's, honestly a little terrifying because I have no idea what they're doing.
Just standing in there.
Why they're so interested in the cathedral. Besides, the fact that the gust is at the top, but I don't imagine it's very easy to get to them.
Probably not. Especially with all of this, memory futzing about.
Although it did seem that their team comprised of real kind, so...
Well, Call sort of, like, looked at himself up and down a little, and they're like, yes, at the very least it seems they won't have to worry so much about that aspect of losing their memories, linear aging and all of that.
Yeah, sorry, that wasn't a comment about you. It's...
I take no offense. I take no offense. I mean it truly. Oh no, fae beings and all of that. It seems we operate on slightly different levels of participation.
Yeah, no, at least I'm not, at least I'm not back there again.
Me very quietly. Cull has just put the pieces together in full, Your Honor. At least part of them. Like, yes, the elders. You referenced some elders, and now you're like, oh shit, I'm not the only one. Al is not going to say anything about that, though. Look. What exactly are they supposed to do here?
I don't know. What does he want to do here?
I'm gonna reach over and give Victor, like, a pat on the shoulder. And they're going to be like, well, if nothing else, if any of those Order fellows, decide to try and kick your shit in, I am just up the mountain, which is practically a hop, a leap, and a skip away.
Thank you. That means a lot. So, what happened to your shrine?
There was a, upstart that tried to break into my house, and unfortunately he broke a nice big hole in my stained glass and tore up my whole altar. It was a rather annoying experience. And Cull pulls their notebook back out from where they had it, like, tucked under their arm, and they open to where they had stuck the pencil, and they sort of lean over to show Victor. And it's, like, a really sketchy, vague drawing of, like, the outlines of a room's dimensions, and then just sort of, like, a few scribbled in general ideas. of like what a new shrine could look like, and then in the corner there's one like drawn out and it's labeled old, and it's got a really nice look to it, even done in pencil, and it's clear that they've been sitting here for a fair amount of time just sort of like scribbling and bouncing ideas. And they're like, I was sitting next to the light box, and I figured I would chatter away at a little dawn star and such, and maybe perhaps they would give me some sort of inspiration or something. If nothing else, it'd be a nice place to sit and look at the room and get a general idea on perhaps if I wanted to have a similar sort of setup at any point, or just getting an idea of things, you know?
Mm-hmm. Do you want some help with the ideas? I'm really sorry that happened.
It's quite alright. I'll take the ideas. It's an opportunity for a new sort of setup. Isn't that fresh opportunities, new starts, all that's what we sort of operate under, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh. So, is there anything else you want to do, Audio?
Nah, I think this has been a delight.
So, Victor, gives Call some ideas.
Probably like head to head, like sort of pressed together, leaned against, looking at the notebook, just sort of like scribbling and passing the pencil between each other for a little bit.
Yeah. There's a slight mention about a different, temple that Victor kind of just doodles in the corner from where he comes from, which he doesn't mention about.
Paul probably mentions that they have about 6 little temples for the light, sort of around the western half of the Einquo continent, that they rather blazely says, yes, that's where I've sort of been sequestering the bits of power I've let the light hold onto, and all this and that. Just like, yeah.
Well, when I'm done here, and if I go out that way, I can check up on them for you, if you want.
Call is like, well, I have a party of my own. I'm planning on at some point in the month or so heading out, because of course, rather dark signs if someone has broken into my home, even unknowingly, when it was supposed to be protected. So I appreciate the offer, but you seem to be having enough troubles of your own.
Victor nods.
It'll be quite alright.
Well, I hope you and your party stay safe.
And you as well. Light watch over you and all of that.
May the light guide your way.
Yay!
Yay! And that is our FPS. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.